Hello and welcome everyone to my online public meeting for North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. I am Commissioner Zoe and I will chair this meeting. So just to move to the agenda now, so we've had the welcome. My last meeting can be viewed online on my website and there are no outstanding actions. The apologies we've received from Simon Dennis, Tamara, I think that's everyone. So I'm going to go on to the performance section, which is, so who would like to take that forward? I think is it you, Damien?
It is, Commissioner. Thank you. I was trying to get the slides up and couldn't get the mute button, so apologies. Can you see the slides okay, Commissioner?
Yes, we can. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So the service performance pack, again, this is for the reporting period for the 3 months up to the 31st of October. As always, what you will see with the slides are some updated slides in there. As always, we welcome your feedback and that of the public to the slides to ensure that they're one, understandable, and two, meaningful for yourself and the public. So with our summary of performance, overall safe and well activity continues to increase since the initiative started. We have completed 3,609 safe and well visits. Of these, 706 are classified as very high or high risk, which are those members of our communities who are most vulnerable. This equates to 241 days of safe and well activity across the organisation. 617 safe and well visits have either been declined by the occupier or we have been unable to make contact with them, and I'll cover that in a later slide, some of the reasons for that, but we do attempt to make every opportunity that we can to contact those most vulnerable. 37 jobs which are categorised as very high and high are past their visit date, and again this can be for a number of reasons. When we are trying to access the properties of those most vulnerable, it may be that they're in hospital or elsewhere, so we endeavour to try and get in those as soon as we possibly can, and certainly to make the first contact with those occupiers within 7 days. With regards protection, our overall fire safety activity continues to increase. We've done 1,946 fire safety audits, which is an increase of 7% against the same reporting period last year. 2,879 other business fire safety activity, which is normally around the non-regulatory and outside of those fire safety audits. And this equates to a year's worth of activity, 365 days. Following on the performance, now into response. From the 1st of April 2019, the number of incidents that we've attended has increased year upon year. And in the last tax year, we attended 8,195 incidents. This includes false alarms, fires, and special service incidents. From April 23 to the 31st of October 23, we attended 4,622 incidents. So based on the daily average and the monthly averages, this would show that we potentially and predicted to have 8,604 incidents throughout this tax year. Of these, 1,912 were false alarm incidents, which is a reduction of 203. 1,075 were fire incidents, a reduction of 441, and 1,635 special service incidents, which is an increase of 59, and that can be anything with regards road traffic collisions, water, or any other call for our service. Fire engine availability this year from the 1st of January has decreased by 4% for the same reporting period the previous year. And from the 1st of August to the 31st of October, there's been a 12% decrease in on-call fire engine availability in the same reporting period last year. And as it says in that bullet, the final bullet on that slide, a significant amount of time and effort is being put in to try and rectify that decrease in on-call availability. With regards to prevention, the average safe and well visits for the month, the average is 352. We are anticipating in our predictive figures a slight reduction in activity in December. Obviously, as families come together for the Christmas period, they're less willing to have us come into their homes, and that may be replicated also in busy businesses that close for the seasonal period. As I said on the previous slide, the number of jobs which are overdue based on our 7, 14 and 28 day timescale has continued to reduce. We want it to reduce further, but certainly we're endeavouring wherever possible to make at least contact with the occupier within the first 7 days for those very high and high. We continue to receive safe and well referrals from partner organisations, as well as the engagement that we do through people in our communities. The next step, which is a piece of work we're doing as we look forward into our next community risk profile, is getting data that can categorise individuals at that household level to allow us to target more effectively those in our communities. And I'm sure Area Manager Hurst and Area Manager Ilsley will talk about in those rural areas that we can target at a household level to make sure that we're getting into those most vulnerable. And as part of the HMI, which we'll cover later, the prevention team are looking at how they quality assure and also evaluate these prevention activities to make sure that we're delivering what the public expects.
Can I ask you a couple of questions on this slide, please, Damien?
Certainly.
So I'm really interested to know the amount of people that actually decline a visit. Are they generally those from the very high or high risk category? And then also, you know, we want to monitor, we want this to be behavioural change, don't we? Not just customer satisfaction from these visits. Yes. So how do we understand whether it's been really effective and being able to influence that behaviour change?
Certainly. So it comes onto it into a later slide, and certainly Area Manager Hurst would know this as well, that we've done a number of activities where we speak to the occupants after they've had a visit, not only to say are they satisfied with what's been discussed, but what have they understood from the information that's given, what, if anything, they would change in their daily routine around the home to make sure that they're safer in the domestic setting. So we are doing that, but it was an area that was identified as an area for improvement for the service, and work is being undertaken by the prevention team to make sure that we can fully evaluate that activity and make sure that the messages and that behavioural change is happening with occupiers.
Thank you.
These are some of the key outputs and outcomes from community safety activity. I don't intend in going through all of them, Commissioner, but I will pick out a couple of examples. So as we suggested, there's been 962 safe and wells visits that's been delivered in the reporting period from the 1st of August to the end of October. Alongside that, lots of other activity in the prevention department. So we've held one 5-day life intervention, which is around a youth intervention, and as you've suggested, sort of changing those behaviours and working with the young people in our communities. We've had 2 biker down interventions and also 7 dark night engagements as we move through the period up into the bonfire. Also, the prevention team have developed their strategy and they're working across the whole organisation to get input into that and to make sure that we reduce risk in line with the community risk profile. We've supported a range of individuals and teams to receive annual service awards, and the National Fire Chiefs Council give us a highly commended recognition for the efforts in our delivery of prevention, early intervention and safeguarding. Have you got any questions on that slide, Commissioner?
No, I haven't, thank you.
Thank you. With regards protection, as you will see, lots of activity as always from our protection department. 5,153 protection activities were completed within the reporting period. This is a 9% increase on the same reporting period last year. There's been an increase of 52% this reporting period on last year of the inspection of very high and high risk inspections. And as our risk-based inspection programme develops, the focus for our experts and the business fire safety inspectors will be for them to really identify and visit the high and very high premises to make sure that those experts are doing all their activity in our highest risk properties. Incident count projections. So this is one of the developments that we've tried to do for this month's online public meeting. So this is just trying to predict where we will be at the year end. So as you can see from this slide, on average, we have 22 incidents per day, which are 9 false alarms, 5 fires and 8 special service incidents. These are distributed across both the day and night shifts. And from this, we've got a comparison there from this year to the last financial year, which shows that we will have an increase in false alarms, an increase in special services, but we will have a decrease in the number of fires compared to last year. I think that is on daily averages and the monthly average, Commissioner, but as you will see from one of the later slides, incident activity rises in the summer period, goes down in the winter period. So we're hopeful that we will be very similar to last year, if not those incidents reducing.
Mm-hmm.
Overall fire engine availability has over the past year has dropped. So from January to October 2022, we were at 83% fire engine availability across our fleet, and that has dropped now to 79%. This is a continuous focus for North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue, and we have put a lot of resource and effort into attracting, retaining and recognising and rewarding our on-call staff that show an amazing commitment to their local communities. So we're trying to put everything that we can in place to support them to be able to deliver their services in the community. This is for the reporting period and as well, you know, Commissioner, the summer months are the most challenging with regards our availability as on-call staff take holidays from their primary employment. But as you can see, we've had a significant drop from the previous year, from 76% to 64%, and this is low a number of our stations. A lot of local activities being done in these station areas, and also we're doing an organisational approach because we do have several on-call members of staff in temporary contracts in our whole-time roles, which does have an impact. So we're doing lots of activity. We've recruited for an on-call station manager to look across the breadth of the challenges with on-call and to provide reports that will go up through the governance structure to make sure that we're improving this picture as we move through into next year.
Damien, I know that we've got a public question about ACOM, so I won't propose to talk about that right now, but I would like to talk about Huntington. So when can we expect to see an availability increase when Huntington becomes on call later this month?
Yeah, certainly, Commissioner. So I have had an update from the district commander who covers both ACOM and Huntington. So there are some local issues which I won't go into too much detail due to personal information, but some of the issues that we do have at on-call stations is in having enough incident commanders and also drivers. This is where the pinch point is. With drivers, there are some legitimate barriers that have been put in place elsewhere, which we can't do anything about. So driving isn't now, the fire standard for driving is a 3-week course, which makes it difficult for our on-call staff. But what we're trying to do is make sure that there are no barriers created from within North Yorkshire. What I would say is we will be overstaffing at York and ACOM in the near future. I think it's from the 27th of November, Commissioner, and from that point on, we will be moving people into Huntington to make sure that we do increase that availability at that station.
Thank you. And
on this slide, we have the response incident count, which just shows the level of incidents on a monthly basis. And as you can see, as I previously mentioned, incidents increase in those summer months. Thankfully, they've not increased as much as last year due to the extreme weather conditions that we've had. Apologies, I've just noticed a typing error for that second bullet point, but it says we've attended 4,622 incidents this year. That is 600 fewer than in the same period from April to October last year. So this is where I suggested earlier, Commissioner, I'm quite optimistic that maybe our predicted figures will be far closer to the performance of last year with regards to incidents. This is our response to false alarms. So it covers all our false alarms. So false alarms which are good intent, false alarms which are malicious, and also false alarms due to our apparatus. As you can see on each of them, dwelling fires are the highest number of attendances at dwelling fires. Where we're really focusing our attention from a fire safety point of view is in those non-residential premises, where we're working with the owners and the responsible people to make sure that we limit them as much as possible. And as you're well aware, in the previous months, we've had talks at Spotlight reports on that to discuss what we're trying to do to lower those. With regards our site-specific risk information. So this is where firefighters go out to premises in their area, generally to familiarise, to get tactical information for if an incident would occur in these premises. So these are commercial premises, are high-rise buildings across the county. We have 1,400 of these, including water and also moorland risk. Of these, 40 of ours are overdue, so 1,360 are in date. This is discussed monthly with district command teams, and they do prioritise them to make sure that we get into those premises that are showing overdue. Operational learning. The number of exercise and incident debrief returns has improved since the last reporting period, and reminders are sent out after each incident to make sure that the operational learning and information is passed back to the service. This is really important to make sure that we're understanding all of the learning that we can from the incidents that we have, and we've done a number of pieces of work which you can see there with regards, sorry, I've just moved on, with regards people's mental health support following traumatic incidents. So we're making sure that we look at all aspects of an incident to make sure our members of staff are supported. And that's the end of the presentation, Commissioner. Do you have any further questions?
I don't. Thank you very much, Damien. There's some great work going on. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Right, let's move now to our main presentation, which is Right People, Right Support in Rural Areas. And I'd like to welcome Ben and Tom to the meeting. So who would like to do the presentation, please?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll lead out and then Tom will do the second half of the presentation. So a quick introduction for myself first. This is my first OPM. My name is Ben Ilsley. I joined the service in January this year. My remit is emergency response and training. I'll do the first half covering our emergency response offering, then hand over to Area Manager Tom Hurst for prevention and protection. So I'll just share my screen and please confirm it's working okay, please. Thank you.
It is now, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So our presentation today at request is around right people, right support in rural areas. So I'll start by explaining our process for deciding what our resource allocation should be in rural areas and service-wide. So it's covered as part of our process we refer to as community risk management planning. So that's a term that's come new to the sector in the last couple of years. North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service currently uses the terminology risk and resource model to describe that process. It's born out of the national framework document, and it puts a requirement on fire and rescue services every 3 or 4 years to assess all the risks in their county and allocate resources accordingly. So some of the key phases in that process, first of all, data and business intelligence. So we assess masses of data. Vulnerability data, historical incident data, other sources as well. And it helps us map out where risk is in our area. So you can see on the map on the right hand side, up until this point, the service has grouped together risk areas in low super output areas, which is clusters of approximately 400 to 1,000 properties. So as Damien mentioned before, as part of the ongoing work and the developments we're making, we will get that down to household level and UPRN. So we'll be able to identify where the really high risk individuals are in those areas. So to supplement the kind of the data work as well, as part of that CRMP process, we involve significant public and stakeholder engagement. So data will tell us one thing about where risk is, but we get out into our communities, working well with the PFCC, to listen to individuals in their communities and understand what their perceptions are of risk, and part of that concept of not only being safe, but feeling safe as well. So as part of that process, at the end of there, we identify what our key community risks are. As part of the RM for 2022 to 2025, the 3 key risks to work on for fire and rescue service here were fire, road and water. So we assess what our predominant risks are, and then also with the risk areas. You can see from the map again on the right hand side, the red areas are high risk areas, the amber kind of medium, and then green areas kind of getting low and very low as well. So you can see from there, the vast majority of our rural areas are lower risk areas, but there are the different risks around our response times as well. So we have to be proportionate. We don't want to leave areas, rural areas, where incidents could then protract or people have lengthy times away from a response as well. So once we've assessed where the risk is, it's our role to then allocate resources accordingly. And that does require constant review every 3 to 4 years.
Ben, can I just ask a question on that? So
Please do.
In the rural areas versus the urban areas, do you see a difference in incident type? For example, in the rural areas, do you get more road traffic collisions, for example?
We do, Commissioner, yes. So we're currently assessing 5 years of incident data. That is a common trend. So there are typically more road traffic collisions, or a high percentage of the incidents in rural areas are road traffic collisions. There's also one kind of key emerging risk in rural areas, which is wildfires as well, which I'll cover later on in the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll move on and give you a kind of a worked example. So as part of the RRM for 2022, as I mentioned before, water was assessed as one of the key risks. So that's a combination of flooding, but also water rescues. So as I mentioned before, the starting point is to assess what the risk is, which is water, then where it is. So you can see from the map on the right-hand side, and apologies if it's a slightly grainy image, but you can see from there, the blue areas are specific floodplains we get from partner data with the Environment Agency. And then the green and the amber dots there are mapping out where we've had historical incidents. So a combination of flooding and also kind of water. The kind of Craven area, and found that we were rescue capability, which will be based at Skipton. So I'm pleased to say all the training is taken ahead, and that new asset will go live next Monday. So that's basically in practice how it works. We assess what the risk is, where it is, then assign resources accordingly. So fire cover in rural areas, the common issue in North Yorkshire, we have a significant area to cover. So the service area covers approximately 3,200 square miles, which is the second largest area of any fire and rescue service in the country. So to cover the large geographical area within our budgets, North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service has to adopt a predominantly on-call fire cover model. So we have a small number of shift or 224 stations that are available 24 hours a day instantly on a 224 crewing basis. We then have a number 7 of day crewed stations, which are positive hours work during the day where they do significant risk reduction work, and then they're on-call alerters on the night time. And then we have 31 on-call appliances across, so it allows us to kind of spread out that fire cover in a very affordable way. And then changes were made in this during this RRM to make sure that we freed up some resources to be able to further support our on-call cover, because as Damien mentioned before on the previous slide, it is a national challenge now, the on-call model.
Ben, could you just give me a couple of examples, please, where you've done that? So what changes have you made in that RRM? Just a couple of examples for anybody watching.
That's fine, yes. So as part of the RRM, so it was assessed the changes that are being made at Huntington and are planned for Harrogate and Scarborough are designed to kind of free up resources from certain areas that allows us to then reinvest into our on-call. So as Damien mentioned before, and again, I'll cover it slightly later in the presentation, we've developed an on-call futures project, which has a number of terms of references and projects within there, and will be very much focused on delivery and making tangible improvements for our on-call, which I'll cover slightly later in the presentation. That's okay, Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the on-call futures. As I mentioned before, it is a national challenge. The vast majority of fire services in the UK are reporting challenges around the on-call model. The ONS, the Office of National Statistics data, shows that since 2011, there's been a 25% reduction in on-call firefighters nationally. So the model was developed decades ago. People's lifestyles do change. It is a huge commitment. We're very fortunate that we've got such dedicated public service professionals with our on-call, and we're incredibly grateful for the commitment they give. But it is very challenging and it isn't for everyone. So what we're looking to do is trying to see with the on-call futures. As Damien mentioned before, we've got a new station manager allocated to this project since the summer. It is an individual who started their career in the on-call, so does understand the challenges and the concept very well. So we're looking at targeted recruitment campaigns, which we've just used in the whole time. We are finding the vast majority of our applicants from the recent whole time recruitment came through social media. So by being very targeted, using sponsored ads in those areas, it allows us to be very targeted and focused to the areas we have. We're looking to develop on-call impact assessments. So we've brought a template into the service now, and it allows us to assess any kind of policy change or any training provision to make sure that we look at it through the lens of on-call firefighters. As Damien mentioned before, there are areas outside of our control, like driving, for example. There's a new national standard for driving where any new drivers would have to do a 3-week course now, rather, which means that if this is their secondary employment, it's a challenge for them. But it will help us assess any barriers around incident command training, any training provision, and make sure that we're setting the organisation up to be achievable for on-call. The station manager for the On-Call Futures now attends. There's a new revitalised national working group through the NFCC. That's a group where representatives from every service in the country get together and share good practice. So we're quite keen to learn where things and trials, initiatives are working well in different parts of the country. And we certainly hope that by the end of this On-Call Futures project, we'll have some to share as well. We're looking at the widest possible pool. So what we're looking to assess is on each station their footprint of who is available within that catchment area. We're trying to make sure that we are making sure that we expand our reach if possible to make sure we can get the right people available as long as it's not detrimental to response times. We're looking at potential incentives for on-call availability, and now there are resources becoming available for us to do that. Other services are trialling different methods around bonus schemes, trying to pay for availability is an interesting one. So we're assessing what's working well nationally and looking at incentives. Obviously, the pay is nationally agreed, but we are looking at what we can do internally to make sure that we value our on-call and the commitment they give. And then the last one, not this list exhaustive, Chris will be looking at a lot of different areas as well. We're looking to improve our kind of employee and employer recognition schemes. So we certainly recognise we can do more in that space. We have a number of employers who are very good to us and release their staff from primary employment during the day, and we need to give thanks to them and recognition, and also explore any other employers who have many schemes or contract initiatives that would allow their staff to become free and available to take on-call firefighting during the daytime as well.
And I think it's really important, actually, we just take a moment to discuss actually on-call and employer recognition schemes, and making sure that employers actually realise that, you know, sometimes on-call are just called out for an hour at a time. It isn't like for a whole day, so they're losing them out of their workforce for a whole day. You know, if you had a moment, what would you be able to say to employers, Ben, that are watching this maybe, that could be encouraged to think about this scheme for their staff?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, we're incredibly grateful for the organisations who do release their staff during the days. I think in terms of community benefit, so we do have areas of the county where if that on-call asset isn't available, it could potentially be protecting your business. By releasing some of your employees to become on-call firefighters, they will learn skills that could translate into your workplace, first aid qualifications. So there are mutual benefits there. And if you do have staff, if you work within 5 minutes or your business is within 5 minutes, please do consider that, because we would be incredibly grateful for any support in that area. Thanks, Ben. Thank you. And then the last slide from me before I hand you over to Tom, another risk that we're identifying, ready kind of horizon scanning. Obviously, reports all over the media and the news around climate change. So we're trying to get on the front foot with that and ensure that our provision in the future, we're assessing what that could mean for North Yorkshire. So significant data has shown that there's an increase in the number of wildfires and also the severity across the United Kingdom. There was a specific week last year in 2022 in July where temperatures in parts of the country met 40 degrees. On that day, I remember being on the incident ground on that day, the fires were spreading excessively quickly and spreading further areas. So we do have large rural areas which could be susceptible to wildfires in the future as well. So we're setting that within North Yorkshire. The top right image there is something that's provided by the Met Office, and it's a fire severity index. And what that tells us on a daily basis that we review through the summer months, they basically assess based on how much rainfall has been, what the temperatures are, other conditions as well, what is the likelihood, sorry, what is the severity of a fire? So it doesn't necessarily say anything about the likelihood of a fire. If a fire was to start in some of those rural areas, how quickly it could spread and how severe it could become. So that's screenshots taken from last summer on that busy week, and you can see the vast majority of North Yorkshire was at very high risk for that week. So in terms of resource to risk, training for crews and specialists. So we offer specific wildfire training to all our crews, but we have 4 operational crews who have an enhanced level of training and equipment to deal with wildfires that are spread out in some of our rural areas. We've procured a number of specialist assets. You can see an image there, bottom right, of an ArgyCat. We have 2 in service. That gives us off-road capability and allows us to get out into rural areas which may be challenging using a Type B fire appliance, which potentially can't go off-road, and also specialist equipment as well. So we are preparing for that. We're trying to ascertain through our community risk management planning beyond 2025 how much of a risk that will become in North Yorkshire. There's already good provision and good work taking place to ensure that we are well prepared. We are assessing that moving forward because we are recognising that that could have an enhanced risk in rural areas as well.
Can I ask Ben, can I just ask a couple of questions? So the first one is, what is the most frequent causes of wildfires? And the other one is, now we hear an awful lot about the impacts of climate change and the potential for more wildfires. And I just wondered if North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service has seen a recent increase at all.
Okay, so in terms of the first question, Commissioner, some are accidental, some are deliberate. And what we ask in terms of during those summer months is particularly a number of them can be caused by things like disposable barbecues, purely accidental but irresponsible use of them in rural areas. We urge people during those summer months and create campaigns to try and stop people from doing that, because a discarded disposable barbecue only takes 1 or 2 embers when the conditions are that bare and dry, and it can spread incredibly fast. In terms of wildfires, this summer wasn't as bad as last year due to the weather conditions, but we're certainly not taking that 2022 was a one-off. We are preparing for the fact that that could become a regular feature here, and we could experience conditions like they do in continental Europe moving forward. So we only envisage there's more summers like 2022 to come, and we are trying to prepare for that, make sure we've got the right kit, equipment to be able to rise to that challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the following slides are related to our prevention and protection offering. So I'll hand you over now to Area Manager Tom Hurst. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. Tom Hurst, Director of Community Risk and Resilience. I'll be covering the area in relation to prevention and how we're undertaking work around the rural areas to help people keep people as safe as possible. And Ben will kindly do my slides for me, so I will be taking us a little bit back to the pandemic with the next slide, please, to save efficiencies. So, yeah, the first slide we're discussing is around our community risk profile. So we've mapped out our community risk profile based upon 3 key areas. That's accidental dwelling fires, road and water, and who, when and where are people most at risk of being killed or seriously injured. Next slide, please, Ben. And from the back of the community risk profile, we've then created our risk and resource model, which my 2 colleagues have discussed already during today's meeting. One of the key areas of that was, and built within the fire and rescue plan as well, is around how do we make sure we get a fair balanced service of prevention activities around North Yorkshire and the City of York. So within that, thankfully, within the risk and resource model, we have allowed for increased resources within the prevention and protection team, which will allow us to be able to undertake work more fairly across and equally look at people who are the furthest away from an emergency response and make sure they are getting the ones highest risk of having a fire furthest away from a emergency response. We make sure we do all the right levels of early intervention and prevention activities. So my job at the moment is to make sure that we create a sustainable structure within the prevention and protection departments, which will be able to achieve this. And some of the work that we're doing at the moment, I've just captured within this slide, which includes the increased use of the on-call staff to be able to undertake prevention activities. making sure that that will then allow us to have some of our community safety officers to then go further out into the rural areas and capture those. We're also looking at how, and I cover it more on the next slide in a bit more detail, but making sure that each one of our members of staff are competent and confident enough to be able to undertake those activities. So previously, community safety officers have often done work in more urban areas to help and support the crews. We wanted to try and support the crews to be able to undertake that work by themselves. Okay, next slide, please, Ben. So yeah, this is in relation to accidental dwelling fires and what we've done around this area. So within this area, we've worked really hard to make sure that we've got the most up-to-date safe and well policy aligned with a person-centred framework from the National Fire Chiefs Council. This is focused around the person-centred approach, making sure that we're concentrating on the individual, their needs, and also the residency that they live in. We've also introduced a referral pathway for individuals and for our partners through a NFCC product called SafeLinks. We've worked at both a service level, but also I've sat on regional and national working groups around this, so that we're trying to make it as simple as possible for partners, especially who are identifying risk, to be able to simplify the access into the service to make sure that person gets the right level of engagement and education. And we've recently worked with them closely about making sure that there's a available app. It's a wraparound app for SafeLinks, so people can have that on their devices, and if they do identify risk of somebody being killed or seriously injured in a domestic dwelling, they can then refer straight through via this app, which is a real big game changer, certainly for some of our key health providers, domiciliary care and housing associations. It's a really good opportunity for us to develop that now. We've delivered safe and well training to both our whole time and our on-call members of staff. We've also put in, or part of the RRM is to put a proposal in to give on-call, and this helps as well in somewhat what Damien and both Ben were speaking about earlier about retention and recruitment of on-call members of staff by allowing them further training and enhancing their ability to be able to meet the needs of their community. Hopefully will help and support those projects. So it's many projects working together as well. And as I discussed in the previous slide, we are hoping that through our training and then through our quality assurance of the products that we're delivering and the evaluations, we're hoping to make sure that we give our members of staff the competence and the confidence to be able to undertake the safe and wells all the way throughout the county. Next slide, please, Ben. So this is just a capture of the improvements throughout the on-call, been able to undertake the safe and well. So as of when this slide was produced, they've already undertaken 269 safe and well activities this year in comparison to last year's 163. So we're making good progress. And as you can see throughout the county, they are mapped in predominantly those rural areas, which is really good to see. And once again, this will further increase year on year as we're delivering more of that training and allowing more of that funding to be able to give them opportunities.
Yeah, it's really good, Tom, to see so many increased visits there, safe and well activities. It's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Commissioner. Next slide, if you will, please, Ben. So another area which we're very passionate about is the road safety. I'm lucky enough to be vice chair of the strategic group and also the chair of the tactical working group for road safety. And I think Ben mentioned it earlier as well. He said about unfortunately, we do see probably a bit of a disproportionate amount of incidents still on our 60-mile-per-hour rural roads. And we're doing all we can to make sure that we're and data driven to be able to undertake activities around the 4Es. Predominantly fire and rescue service, we mainly concentrate on the engagement and the education. So yeah, we're working hard as a partnership. The partnership, we're getting good participation within there. We've also recently employed a road safety coordinator whose primary role is our road safety and making sure that everything we're delivering is as a standardised approach as possible as part of the partnership, but also we're capturing all the fantastic work we're doing, because what we're doing sometimes is we are doing work as organisations, but it's not always collected together as one group as a partnership. So it's a real fantastic opportunity, that and some of the work they're doing, including things like standardised package of delivery for the engagement, both physical copies and e-learning, e-educations, things like that. So yeah, a massive piece of work, and we should see some real good advancements of that moving forward. We've also brought in the introduction of the fire bike. This is a really good engagement tool, and once again, unfortunately, the figures have been far too high for our motorcyclists being killed on our roads over this summer. And what we're doing is we're doing all we can as part of that engagement. We're identifying routes through our, like I say, it's a data-led approach, so working with the data analyst in the Road Safety Partnership. We're identifying which areas are most at risk and what times of day, predominantly on a weekend, predominantly in an afternoon, and we're making sure the fire bike's out there, because we stop at areas where bikers stop, we have conversations with them, and also we promote packages such as Biker Down and Bike Safe, and that's been a really useful tool where predominantly some other blue light responders haven't been able to engage, people haven't been willing to engage. They really seem open to the approach of the fire bike. We've seen increased courses and participation in the Biker Down programme. And then on other areas, certainly as we look towards some of the stuff we do around youth, young drivers, we've been having really good success through Actions Have Consequences, which I believe you've attended, yes. Commissioner.
That's right, yes, and I commissioned some of that as well, which I'm really pleased at. I think it's a great initiative, it really is good.
Yeah, we do, and we have fantastic feedback around those as well. And then another area which captures somewhat road safety as well as somewhat Halloween safety and bonfire night safety is our Dark Nights campaign. So that's all about that time of year where I said that there is the Halloween element and the bonfire night, the fireworks safeties, but also it's about that pedestrian safety for children and young people going to and from school as the clocks change and the mornings and the nights get darker.
Yeah, I can say the feedback I've had about the fire bike is that it's a great engagement tool, isn't it? Because you're able to, you know, go and meet those bikers across the county in the areas that they congregate for a coffee and one thing and another, and be able to have those conversations about prevention, isn't it, and road safety. And they seem very accepting of it, which is great, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and one of my colleagues from North Yorkshire Police, they sit on one of the national agendas in the police around motorcycle reduction, and they asked us to participate in, it was their last August bank holiday, and some of the other services, some of the other both police forces and fire and rescue services were very interested in the fire bike and yeah, seeing the fantastic value of it. So yeah, hopefully that will spread further around the country as best practice. Oh, and then we also, like I say, on the back of we, as part of the Road Safety Partnership, we have presentations around themes and patterns and both what's happened in the last season and then what we predict happen in the upcoming seasons, and then we build our targeted activities around that, police around their enforcements and engagements, and ourselves around our engagements and our education activities. So yeah, we've started to work really collaboratively now, which is really promising. Next slide, please, Ben. Now, this is an area where, unfortunately, national statistics are showing that on some positives in the prevention world is that people being killed in domestic dwelling fires. Although it's sticking at a certain point, we're still seeing a level of reduction, and a tremendous reduction from previous decades. Really almost night on day, but within road safety and certainly water safety, we are seeing increases, and we're doing all we can to try and prevent these happening. And I know Ben spoke previously about the extra provisions that we've put in place around water, but what we're trying to achieve now is that early interventions and preventions, and people having that awareness of how dangerous that water can actually be. Or if done in the wrong manner. So yeah, throughout the summer period, we've run a series of prevention activities, both individually targeted and at some of the large fairs and events across the county to try and demonstrate using our water demonstrator, which you can see within the picture within that slide. And now, thankfully, kindly, we've had some funding from within your office, which thank you again, Commissioner, to get some further more of these, because they're a fantastic tool to engage with members of public. So as we look to engage the members of public through this, you can't see it on the picture, unfortunately, but we've got a QR code linked to that as well, in a big QR code, so people can go straight on it, tracks the engagement, and then they go on the QR code, and that will give us the online safety advice around water as well. So we're having some real good success on that. And then some of the stuff we've done we've done videos and education packages, which have now been used as best practice within the fire and rescue service around certain key stages. So yeah, that once again, we're leading from the front in a lot of the areas around the water, and on that as well regionally, all our fellow colleagues have now got these demonstrators as well. So yeah, not only we're doing it for the county, but we're sharing best practice throughout the region too. Next slide, please, Ben. Thank you. So discuss the three key priority areas, but we also run a calendar of campaigns around areas where we identify of risk within North Yorkshire. Certainly then it goes down into the district levels, and then they can focus. So we've got like chimney safety and then fire safety, things like that, fire farm safety as well. So one of the campaigns that we're passionate about is farm fire safety. We've created a farm fire safety booklet, which focuses on various different areas, not just on like domestic dwelling fires from a farmhouse level, but also like the business fire safety aspect of the farm itself. We can get crews as well looking at the operational risk element of it, and then certain properties as well where they've looked to sort of branch out around like holiday homes and lets as well. We can give advice around that as well. So it's like an all-encompassing package that we can deliver there, which seems to have landed really well. We've also, it's not just about the fire related as well. We talk a lot about the seasonal weather as well, because flood safety is a big passion of ours as well, because what we were finding was we were attending a lot of incidents where there could have been avoidable, certainly around livestock, which then puts added risk either to the farmer themselves or wanting somebody to put something in place to try and help them where it's really avoidable. So what we've been trying to do is when we do see any sort of weather warnings, we get the messages out early, and part of that is to try and move livestock away from known flooding areas to try and prevent these from happening in the future. So it's not just about the fire, it's an all-round safety package.
So Tom, can I ask you a question on that, please? Because it's not just farms in the rural area, is it? It's, you know, it's very much about rural businesses. So have you effectively identified all the medium, high, very high risk premises in rural communities?
We have, yeah, through the industrials, the industrial and commercial premises. Yeah, so they're captured within our risk-based inspection programme, and yeah, obviously we do tend to get more high and very high naturally within urban areas, but there is areas of that, and we have got protection teams, advisors and inspectors who do go out to the rural areas and make sure they're on the same inspection frequency as you would expect in more of a built-up area as well. So yeah, it is incorporated. So yeah, as well as the leaflets and the booklets that we present, we've been working with the Young Farmers Association. We also work closely with the rural policing team. And then we've also fed it into industry newsletters and attended like auction marts and places where we can give this advice out on a wider scale. Some of the stuff also what we talked about earlier about as the summer seasons do tend to get drier. It's about what advice and help we can assist with the farming industry to try and reduce some of those fires. Unfortunately, from this slide itself, you can see this is where, unfortunately, a fire to a piece of agricultural equipment has not only damaged that, but then it's spread to the crop as well. So we're trying to give as much advice as possible around maintenance and cleaning of their equipment, but also what things they can put into place to stop extensive spread, such as putting fire breaks in, and also to help and support ourselves if we ever need to attend that, like placing bowsers full of water to help and support us extinguish it and stop that spread if it does ever happen. So that engagement's working well as well. Next slide, please, Ben. I think Ben once again covered this earlier about the start of these, and I think this picture says 1,000 words really, where you can clearly demonstrate that disposable barbecue has led to extensive fire of the wildfire. And yeah, unfortunately, we do see this far too often, and we do send out joint patrols through known risk areas. When we see the severity score rise, we're out there doing more and more patrols trying to give education. We're also looking at youth education activities through the certain holiday periods to try and prevent these happening and put some sort of distractions in there, and also giving that advice about what dangers of intentional and unintentional incidents in out on the moorlands. Next slide, please, Ben. Yeah, my final slide, and we've mentioned this at previous OPMs, is the Public Safety Service. This is something we've worked really hard with NYP colleagues, and we're starting to try and we are starting to attract other agencies about early intervention and prevention in the rural areas. It works fantastic. We've been both peer reviewed, and we've had independent audits on it who've demonstrated a real good social value return of the Public Safety Service. It's that one opportunity to get over the threshold and give multiple pieces of advice to the highly vulnerable in the most rural areas. Bits of work that we've done around this is we've aligned it now to the neighbourhood policing teams areas around Craven, and we've aligned their shifts as well, so they've got better line management and better, they can come together. And also there is always a public safety service of public safety officer available 7 days a week now, but yeah, having that widespread advice to be able to give to members of the community, we're seeing some real good value in, and as we're looking to substantiate it in the new year, we can then really kick on and look for our colleagues around health, because not only do they help give currently advice around local issues, the support for fire and police, they're also community first responders trained by YAS. But what we're really looking for now, as we look to make it a permanent thing, is how can we attract health, our health colleagues to really buy into this for that early intervention around health reduction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the public safety officers are fantastic, especially in the rural areas, in those communities. They're so highly valued. So I really do look forward to seeing plans to increase the number of public safety officers in other parts of the service area soon. So that's fantastic. Thank you. And thank you to them for carrying out such great work. They really are fantastic.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think that is my presentation complete, unless anyone has any questions.
No, I think we're all done, and we're running slightly over. So we're going to go straight onto the spotlight section. So thank you very much to Tom and Ben. Thank you. So this is the section where the public have raised certain issues with us direct in the office and with me separately. So the public will be aware that you are in the middle of a whole-time firefighter recruitment process, and the window for applications have now closed. So there's two questions to this, and the first one is, can you tell me how much interest there has been from the public and how many people have got through to the assessment stage? So that's the first question.
Yes, sorry, Ben's dealt with it overall. I'll let Ben go,
Okay,
and then I'll add a comment at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Commissioner. So yeah, interest levels were very healthy. It was a very successful recruitment campaign. In the end, we received just shy of 1,000 applicants for the overall for the roles available. We've assessed the first kind of stage of that, and we've got 225 people progressing to the next round. So yeah, very good. It was we commissioned a working group internally, so we had a combination of uniformed officers, our training department, our exercise physiologists working well with our Enable recruitment team as well. So it went really well. Thank you.
I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? 1,000 applicants. That's just fantastic. So the second question, Ben, if you want to answer this one. So briefly, what positive action have you undertaken to try and encourage applications from those who are underrepresented in North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, females in particular?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. So there was a plethora of kind of positive action that supported this campaign as well. So what we learned from this campaign in particular was that the most applications came from social media. So we were trying to be quite sophisticated and targeted with our approach. So we're making sure that we use sponsored ads and targeted ads through Facebook and Instagram and other social media outlets to make sure it's reaching the right individuals who are underrepresented in our communities. We had a series of Have a Go days that were advertised across our websites, Twitter, other social media outlets as well. So some of the Have a Go days were open to everybody. Some of them were put on specifically for underrepresented groups to come down, try out the role, have a go at some of the fitness standards, ask some questions in a very safe space. So they went really well as well. And yeah, again, in terms of modern technology, the Women's Network did some really good work on this. We trialled a podcast that went live on our website as well, that got together a series of current female firefighters, myself, the Deputy Chief as well, talking about very positively about their kind of experience being a female working in North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. So there was a series of other activities as well, but yeah, very good job positive action wise. In terms of the yield, I think over applications, we've got close to 20% from underrepresented groups, around 15% from female, which is an improvement. We want to see that grow, and we're still keen to kind of improve that further. But yeah, it was overall, we're very happy with the campaign and the positive action taken. Thank you. Jonathan, can I bring you in?
Thank you, Commissioner. I think it's important to note this is the first whole-time recruitment that's been driven by the service in conjunction with Enable and our Enable colleagues in there. So Ben and his team did a great job, as did our HR and talent staff in Enable. I think one of the primary things of this is it clearly demonstrates that the service has taken learning from the past. We've certainly moved forward on how we approach our positive action. And I think it would be a worthwhile venture for us to, at some point, or possibly on one of these forums, for us to discuss that more openly, so we can demonstrate what we've done, what we've learned, and also any challenge from the communities or advice or anywhere else that we can go with that. So congratulations to the teams that's done that, and thank you.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. Well done. Well done. Okay, right, that's the end of that spotlight section. So we'll go on to the third-party report section about the NYFRS inspection update. Damien, are you taking this?
I am, Commissioner, thank you. I'll just bring the slides up. Just let me know when you can see those.
I can see them, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'd like to start with a real positive. So previously in our last inspection, as probably people are aware, we received 2 causes of concern, one around our workforce planning processes, and the second was ensuring that our transformation and collaboration activities, that these were both efficient and effective. We were previously revisited by NYFRS at the start of the year, and also we stated at the last OPM that we were being revisited between the 4th and 7th of September. 5 inspection officers came into the service, spoke with a lot of individuals from across the organisation, and really positively they published their letter on their website on the 19th of October, which is a really positive letter about the developments and the progress that the service are making. And actually, the culmination of that letter and the conclusion was that they are now happy to remove both of those causes of concern. For those that want to review the letter, as I've suggested, it's on the HMI website, as well as both your website, Commissioner, and the service website, if any members of the public want to read that letter. But that's a real positive for the organisation, and great thanks to all those involved across all our organisations, because removing those at times is a challenge and does involve a lot of work from across the organisation.
Yeah, can I just come in there and say I was absolutely delighted that those 2 causes of concern have been lifted. There has been the most phenomenal amount of work, hard work gone on behind the scenes. And I'd really like to say through you, Jonathan, as Chief Fire Officer, congratulations to you and your team. It's a huge result for you, and I really am delighted for you all. It really shows the hard work that's been going on. So well done. It's fantastic.
Thank you. The praise needs to go to the teams, Commissioner, and I wholeheartedly appreciate everything they've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chief. But as you will see from the next slides, which I don't intend in going through in detail, Commissioner, we're not resting on our laurels. The causes of concern have been removed by the Independent Inspectorate, but we continue to make sure that all the actions that we identified, which are in these slides, are progressed, and they have all got proposed closure dates at the end date of this year, to make sure that all the actions that we wanted to do, we just didn't want to close the cause of concern. We wanted that sustainable improvement across everything. So we continue to track the cause of concern actions to make sure that we complete everything. And this is the slides that show that. And as you can see from this, the slides, we've got a number of areas within the recommendations that are now complete. A number of the actions, the completed ones, are those blue boxes. The ones that are on track are in green, and obviously we've got the ones that are in red there. The red just means that there is an update required at times, and you will see it on further slides. That at times it's an administrative task, because when we're trying to make sure that we're delivering the improvements, there's masses of activity, as you've seen in the previous presentations across the service, but we need to make sure that we're recording that and evidencing it for when the inspectorate return at the start of 2025, to make sure that we can have that organisational narrative to show them the journey of improvement that we've done. So as we move on, within the report, our previous inspection report, as well as the cause of concern, which has quite rightly been our focus, because the cause of concern is the sort of largest concern area for the Independent Inspectorate. So our focus has been predominantly on that within the previous 6 to 12 months. But within the report, we also received 24 areas for improvement. We are now broadening our focus out. We're using the same systems and process to track the improvement in these areas. And as you can see, a number of these are green, which is on track and will be closed down. I know of a number of the green elements which will be closed very soon, and I would suggest again with the ones that are red, certainly in the ones that are in 1.3, I think this is an administrative update that hasn't come rather than a lack of activity in those areas. With regards to some of the others, I myself have met with the senior responsible owners. We were receiving large amounts of activity updates on the progress people are making across the organisation, but it wasn't directed or focused enough on how it intends to resolve the AFI. So we've asked for people to be far more specific in their updates to us, but I'll cover that shortly in another slide as well about those general updates on performance as well. In addition, His Majesty's Inspectorate, published a report into the values and culture across all organisations in English Fire and Rescue Services, 19 of which were directed at the Chief Fire Officer. And as you can see there, this is the progress against those values and culture report. A number of them have been closed and actioned. Most then following that are on track, and a couple again require an update, but all senior responsible owners have been spoken to, understand what's required. Some of the areas are quite difficult because some of the areas are dependent on other organisations like the Fire Standards Board or the National Fire Chiefs Council or the Home Office or government in some cases presenting the information first before then we can take action to implement their recommendations.
Can I just ask about the two that are in black there, Damien?
Yes, and they're in black because they require an update.
Oh, right, okay, that's fine.
As I suggested though, Commissioner, those two, I've spoken to the senior responsible owners. We were getting lots of information, but it's just making sure that the providers with the specific information, and not just the information, the evidence, so that when we're revisited, because part of our next inspection will be looking at the progress against the values and culture report, it's making sure that we've got a suite of evidence that we can give them the corporate narrative on what we've done to achieve it.
There's some really good progress on that, isn't there? So I'm very pleased to see that with regards to the values and culture report.
Certainly, and the developments since the closure of the cause of concern or them removing it has been exponential because our focus, quite rightly, has been on that cause of concern.
Yeah, thank you. Jonathan, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Commissioner. Very quickly, I'm aware of time. I just thought it would be appropriate to just acknowledge that we have entered into a collaboration with Huddersfield University, and we are doing a framework for change. Now, this isn't just a cultural review of the organisation. This will develop for us a toolkit as a leadership team to improve the organisation where required, but it's the first of its kind within the NYFRS where within the collaboration, the organisation will be judged against academic frameworks, but it's entirely based between our staff and the university itself. And those academics will be working with the service for over a year to look at behaviours, leadership charter, and develop a people story for the organisation, which we will implement strategically. We will, of course, update through appropriate governance, and I anticipate that we will do an online session on it in due course, but it is a significant piece of work for the organisation, and it aligns into what the Inspectorate have asked for there, but it allows us to produce this as an independent piece of work alongside that culture review. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. That really is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So this slide talks about our autumn data collection, Commissioner, and also part of that autumn data collection involves a thematic inspection that HMI are undertaking on handling of misconduct cases across, again, the English Fire and Rescue Services. That will involve His Majesty's Inspectorate having a presence in 10 fire and rescue services. North Yorkshire isn't one of those. The closest to our location is Lincolnshire and Humberside. But as part of that inspection, we will be returning data on how we handle misconduct cases, and also there will be a staff survey launched from the Independent Inspectorate to get the views of our staff on that as well. And I think that the inspections are due to finish in January, and then the report would be sometime in the second quarter of next year from HMI on that misconduct handling of cases. Our round 3 inspection dates, so we will get our document request week commencing the 4th of November next year, and our inspection fieldwork will start in January 2025. The assurance team and the inspection lead over the first 3 months of next year will start to undertake self-assessments across all areas of our organisations. That is where that wider improvement piece, which doesn't align to an area for improvement or the culture and values recommendations, will be captured to make sure that we've got that organisational narrative of the improvement that we're doing. Because as you've seen today, Commissioner, yes, we're addressing the AFIs, the causes of concern, but the improvement work that we're undertaking is far wider than just addressing what HMI put within their reports.
And I really appreciate all the hard work that's going into that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And finally, when we speak to the senior responsible owners, we always flag up activity that's going out across the sector, so publications into other services that we try to capture. So we're now working towards, as an organisation, the characteristics of good that are set out by the Inspectorate, and we will gather that wider information from each department to show how they're working towards achieving that characteristics of good that's stipulated on the HMI website. And that concludes my presentation, Commissioner. I will stop sharing and see if there's any further questions.
Well, I don't believe there are, but thank you very much, Damien. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Right, so we're going to go on to the public questions now. We've got 2 of them. So Simon, could you put them up on the screen, please, and I'll read them out. Okay, so this is from David. Each monthly public meeting, we are seeing that on-call availability is low across the board. The same stations are low. Why has the CFO not been made accountable to the public on these regular occurrences? With the RRM changes starting in the York area happening week commencing the 27th of November, what assurances can you give to the residents and businesses of York that they are going to be safe, now that the area is going to be 2 whole-time appliances 24/7 and 2 on-call appliances 24/7? Acom On-Call has been off the run for quite some time due to only having 1 crew manager, to which his incident command ticket has run out. As a resident and long-time observer of North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service, this does not give me any assurances that anyone is being accountable. Jonathan, you would like to come in on this question?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Firstly, David's detailed some or a large amount of internal information there. So I anticipate whether David is internal or external. As ever, we do invite people to engage with the service, so it's an appropriate question. Now, from the accountability perspective, I am, of course, accountable to you and to the public, and we do that through a number of ways. We've got significant performance management in place for on-call and whole-time availability, and this is done through our Deputy Chief Officer, who oversees a service delivery performance group, and that reports into the strategic leadership team, and then where required, of course, I report that through to you at Exec Board.
That's right.
I also, for an extra layer of transparency and scrutiny, I do voluntarily attend the Police, Fire and Crime panel to support you, support the public, and have that level of transparency there. So I would say that I am accountable. I think we display that accountability, and of course the responsibility is then passed through the organisation. Now, as we've heard today, there has been a significant amount of work that has already been done, is planned and is ongoing for what we're doing to try and improve the working environment for our on-call firefighters, our whole-time firefighters and staff generally. But as we've discussed, that we have a large on-call project which is ongoing. We have the investment into there, but these things take time to produce because, of course, we're trying to recruit more and we're trying to retain more firefighters. But the working environment is constantly changing. There's a number of things which affect our on-call availability. We have on-call and whole-time firefighters. So that is one person which works a dual contract for the organisation. And of course, when they are on whole-time shifts, they cannot fulfil an on-call duty around the legislation. We have some challenges at certain stations with the crewing levels. We have some, unfortunately, significant whole-time sickness and on-call sickness, which plays into this. But David does mention there around the operational competence of an in-ticket. So for the public to understand, we introduced a standardised assessment for incident command, and that's from everybody through firefighter through to myself, of which have to undertake revalidation. Now, it's right that the public are assured that whenever a fire appliance attends, that all people on that appliance are competent. Where people do not pass that assessment, then they are taken what's called off the run, which means that they are given other duties while they're then supported, provided with training, and then they have a reassessment before going back on the run. And this can take a little bit of time, sometimes depending on the individual, but we work with them to get them back on the run as quickly as possible. That will be the reason why the competency point that David has raised there is either still live or is being worked through with those individuals. Now, York residents, the businesses and individuals have all been consulted through the risk and resource model, which you consulted upon significantly over a long period last year. Now, within there, we were very transparent with all the public around the changes to Huntington, the increase in attendance times this may lead to, and how we intended to staff the on-call appliance at Huntington post-RM implementation. Now, as David mentions there, it is being implemented on the 27th of October and November. And from there, supporting the on-call recruitment with whole-time staff where required via detachments, which is from one station if necessary into there, is then changed into a priority staffing model for the on-call station. At ACOM and other areas, we support those wherever possible, but ultimately it's the primacy is given to the on-call appliances in the metropolitan areas. So we are continually working with those, and York and residents and local businesses can all be assured the plans and strategy that we have in place will continue to make them safe as we can possibly make them with the resources that we've got. We continue to analyse the data and build that risk profile so that we can continue to support those businesses and staff. But ultimately, we have been transparent in what we're trying to deliver and will continue to deliver at pace those changes. And of course, we always welcome appropriate challenge and feedback into the service from those areas. The RRM also made changes to the attendance for automatic fire alarms. And of course, this was a point with the significant number, as we've seen today, possibly 9 per day. That's a lot of time out of crew training time. And also, crews should be responding to community need and risk and vulnerability. Because, of course, response is not our primacy. Preventing risk in the community is, and that's where we are focusing our focus. That's where we're driving operational change. I'm sure David will agree it's better for us to prevent and protect than it is to respond. And that's our primacy in there. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, the next question. Simon, that's it. So this is from Claire. Thank you for the opportunity to raise questions. North Yorkshire is a beautiful county with many bridleways, but often to reach them, some road riding is necessary. And I've read the policy to reduce road crashes, but there is no mention of anywhere of equestrian road users. And I find this really unacceptable omission. Equestrians, along with pedestrians and cyclists, are vulnerable road users. North Yorkshire attracts tourists. Many arrive in the countryside from urban areas where they are familiar with cyclists and pedestrians, but have not encountered equestrians. This is not an excuse for their behaviour, but a possible reason for it, making an inclusion all the more imperative. Rural drivers need reminders too. There is a real need for equestrian road users to be included in all policies related to road safety. So are you going to ensure equestrian road users are included in all road safety initiatives in the future? And I believe, Tom, I'm going to come to you for the answer for that one.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. And somewhat as discussed within my presentation, I'm really pleased to say we've now appointed a road safety coordinator as part of our road safety partnership. We've delegated 3 main key focuses for her to focus her attention on. One of them is understanding the data to really understand the risk that we've got within North Yorkshire. The second part of it is to make sure when we understand that risk that we can design and publish. We've got education and education and engagement, both electronic and physical copies of publications around risks within North Yorkshire. And then on the third one of that is about how we capture, as a Road Safety Partnership Collective, the work we are undertaking to meet the needs balance around those risks. So at the moment, she has a clear understanding now of those risks, and now from the partnership meeting only on Tuesday, we discuss this in length, and there is a plan in place about actually what we are focusing on in and around publications. We do need to get better as a partnership. We need to get better at the social media. We need to get better to have our own Road Safety Partnership website, because often we are sharing communication advice around certain areas of risk, certainly around the times of year, but not always as a partnership, as individuals within the partnership, and then partnership colleagues will then share it on their social medias. So we want to get better at that and make sure that as a road safety partnership, we are delivering a uniformed approach to both the engagements and the educations. And one of which, and it is on our radar, is around where some of the other more established road safety partnerships have got, is Respect the Space. So Respect the Space covers pedestrian, cycle and equestrian safety. And predominantly the partnerships around the rural area have that enhanced focus around the equestrian safety, because it is a very valid thing in the question that some people don't experience and don't know what to do within when we do come across horses on our roads. So what we're looking at doing is it will be built in, it'll be part of one of our packages, one of many packages. So no matter which organisation as part of the partnership is delivering it, they will have a standardised approach to that delivery. So it's not omitted off it. It will be created and designed, and please don't quote me on this, but because we've already done a piece of work as the fire and rescue service, but not as the partnership. So I will take that as an action to make sure that that is in there as part of the partnership, and it is covered. That's
great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, so we've come to the end of the meeting, and I don't believe there's any other business apart to say from a month tomorrow, it will be Christmas Eve. And we won't be having any online public meetings in December. So I'd like to thank everybody for inputting today. And I'm sure on behalf of us all, we wish everybody that is watching today a very wonderful and safe Christmas. And we will see you in the new year. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.